When I was but a child, my father told me, son, there are two types of generalizations, this kind and all the others. I just like to get it off to a poetry type of a situation. If there's one thing that I really hate, it's toxic masculinity. It's easily Megadeth's worst album, you guys. When I was growing up, there was this whole ad campaign designed to get people to not do drugs, and it was Hugs Not Drugs. Some people might remember it. You're old like me. But I always thought that was really dumb because, first of all, why can't we have both hugs and drugs? And also, it's I'm pretty sure that most of the time, drugs are the parents of hugs. Does that make sense? Obviously, you don't want to take it too far. You can take it too far. You're really getting lazy when you're using heroin as an upper, something I relate to. I like drugs. Drugs are fun. Recently, though, I got health care for the first time in my life. Yes, thank you, one person. You got healthy, good job. I didn't. But it was something where, the first thing that came to my head is, all these drugs that I have to take to, not die. I hope they don't interact negatively with all the drugs that I take to not, want to die. And then I thought about that. I was like, oh, wow, that's the most adult thought that I've ever had, really. I'm becoming a real boy, everyone. But yeah, because I got healthcare, though, I was sleeping and I died, so I thought that I might have to get that checked out by a doctor. I went to a doctor and... he was like, okay, what it sounds like is happening is you might have this thing called sleep apnea. And I immediately was like, I'm so tired all the time. Are you sure I don't have, awake apnea too? And then he looked at me funny and he wrote something down and then he said that I had to take a drug test. Which I failed. But then he also was like, okay, we have to have you take a sleep test. Which I'm also pretty sure I failed because I don't believe you can pass a test by being resuscitated. But now because of that, I have this apparatus that I use to not die while I sleep. And it basically looks like, when I'm sleeping, it looks like I'm going down on a space squid while trying to sound like Darth Vader. Which is real great for all the, partners that I bring home to have sex with. Because Darth Vader is pretty sexy, guys. Oh, So I am fat. It's okay. I know. I am aware. I don't even mind that word necessarily. It's at least accurate. But I don't understand the term morbidly obese. Because first of all, why does my personality have to come into this discussion at all? It's not nice. And also, it's why am I obsessed with death just because I like to eat tacos? I prefer maybe bitterly husky. Something. I don't go down to your gym and call you homophobically muscle-bound, It's just about respect, really. So when I was younger, this might surprise you actually, I was not much of a sportsman. I looked a lot like I do now. But a lot of older people, old people, especially at churches and things like that, they would come up to me and they would say things like, oh, well, you got broad shoulders, you should be playing football. Why aren't you out on the football field, knocking them and dead or whatever? That's the goal of football, right? To knock them dead. Anyway, but I was always even when I was a dumb kid, I was I know that that's code for just, oh, you're a fat pile of grease. Why don't you take your spine and just knock it against all these other fat pieces of shit spines. And then, we can all feel like you've contributed to society that way. Like, it's just, I just roll up another D&D character. Yeah. Oh, someone's really into it. What class character? No. We'll talk later. Ready for a hot take? I am not impressed by vampires. The reason why is they have way too many weaknesses. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, just first off the bat, they are killed by the sun. That is literally 50% of all time. How are they going to get to the bank? The blood bank. I remember it. Fuck. God damn it. Garlic. You're telling me that this is a terrifying monster that finds garlic bread spicy enough to kill them? Like, what the fuck? Or just water that a lonely religious guy whispered to. Also, like, they can't get into your house unless you invite them in. Like, why are there polite monsters, exactly? I mean, I guess the lesson is, like, even for vampires, consent is key. I used to have a lot of skeletons in my closet, but then they came out, and now I just have a bunch of gay skeletons. Here's one thing I learned recently. All candle makers are wicked. Something about me, I feel like I tend to be a bit of a pessimist. So, for example, I used to work at AM/PM. Thinking about it, that probably has something to do with the other. But yeah, so I was working at AM/PM, and we just had a lot of customers that really made me hate everything. Like, for instance, one time, a lady just walked in the door, and as soon as the door closed behind her, just at the top of her lungs, was like, "Squeeze me! Right now, pussy product that!" For the record, that was a white woman. I don't know what that means. But, like, what the fuck? Another guy came in. He was wearing, what's it called? A straw hat, Hawaiian shirt, jorts, and then Crocs with socks. But he was carrying like a really nice high-end briefcase. And I'm like, what exactly are you carrying in that briefcase, sir? And then I realized he's dressed exactly like Newman is in Jurassic Park. He's trying to steal our dinosaur embryos. Luckily, my bosses have seen that movie, so we're good. Another guy, he came in and he was wearing 5 pieces of clothing, 4 of which were literally covered in rhinestones. A cowboy hat, a jacket, pants, and cowboy boots covered in rhinestones. And then the 5th piece of clothing was a shirt, and it had the Batman logo, but instead of the normal Batman logo, it said Boob Man. And it had boobs. Comic genius. That guy, my favorite guy ever though, yeah, he comes in, he's caked with dirt, that's pretty normal. But he walks in a circle around the store, and then he takes off his shirt, and he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" I was like, oh, so that's what optimism is like. Alright, thank you very much.